And now is the time where we talk about things that are happening currently in the country. Doesn't it seem to that wherever you look, we're going to land on an issue. Charles Mukhwaya is the Secretary General of the Kenya University Staff Union, otherwise known as KUSU, and he joins us this morning. Charles, good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Very well.
Karibu sana.
Asanteni.
All right, there's a lot that's happening. Whenasu told us the other day that, you know what, we're going to down our tools and, you know, looking for funding for sending, trying to get in touch with the funding model. So many things we're going to get into this morning, and we're going to take advantage of the time that we have to do that. Before we do that, Dennis has taken us to Vanilla Land. And... perhaps you can tell us your interpretation of the proverb that he's going to share.
So the vanilla land that she's talking about is known famously for having lemurs. So lemurs are only found in an island country in Africa called Madagascar, the Malagasy people. You know, and we talk about 90% of wildlife found in Madagascar is not found anywhere else in the world. So if you wanted to go enjoy King Julian, if you've watched Penguins of Madagascar.
No.
There's a character called King Julian. Just go look it up. Okay. Safaricom will ensure that you get it. You can stream it easily. Right. Yeah. Okay. But let's go to our proverb today. Money without origin disappears like water in hand. Money without origin disappears like water in hand. How would you interpret that?
Crazy. Yeah. Money without origin disappears like... Well, I just guessing when I'm standing on my feet. You know, when you have money in your hands, and you don't know where it has come from, you're just spending it, right? And you do not have any form of how to regenerate more. That you have already received and spent, once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
You need to have at least a source of stream, a revenue stream, so to speak, that will keep giving you more money as you continue. I don't know whether that...
Yeah, your interpretation is apt. Your interpretation will always be right because it is your interpretation. You can never be wrong. Right?
Okay.
Yes.
Indeed. So we're at a place whereby... in this pot of mixing, universities I don't think they were ever out of it, because for the longest time, even the last time you were here, Charles, we were discussing issues around funding for, you know, whether it was academic staff, whether it was funding for union staff, whomever it was, that funding was dwindling, and that there was a need for staff to then be compensated with an increase in the manner in which that had been requested. That seems to not have happened, and it seems to then be getting to the place where it's boiling in this sense that folks would down their tools, and we're talking about countrywide. We're not talking about just in Nairobi. We're talking across the country. Please give us an update in terms of what's going on at the moment, and why do things seem to be so, you know, hot?
Thank you. Things in our universities are hot. It is true. It is true. It is true because these universities are really, each and every passing day, they are really getting financially strapped. Now, this financial constraint that our universities find themselves in, I would say it has a source. The problems that these universities are facing, financial or otherwise, squarely lie on the government of Kenya. Education sector and education itself is a right. It's a constitutional right to the Kenyan people. And one of the pillars when Kenya was getting independent from the colonialists, we promised ourselves three things. One was actually to make sure that we will ensure our people tunaondoa ujinga. And that is education. Among the three issues that we promised ourselves. And therefore the government took upon itself the duty of ensuring that education and ensuring that Kenyans get education and quality education.
Yeah.
That role lies on the government. Now, as at now, universities are not getting the financial support from the government. Okay. They, as a government, lied to Kenyans that the former funding model was not workable. And therefore, they came up with a new funding model, which they said, now, this one is the panacea to our problems. We are not seeing it. If it is panacea, then why are they not giving these students the scholarships, loans? In fact, the new funding model, what it is doing, it has passed the burden of providing education to parents. That's where the problem is. So when the government says it's not able, it's not going to afford to give these students the necessary tools,
Yeah.
then who will? If the duty to give education to Kenyans belongs to the government, who will?
Parents.
We have said time and again, parents in this country do not have, majority of our parents to the students who come to our universities are very poor. Because the economy is not doing well. Again, it's courtesy of the government. If the government was ensuring that it's providing an enabling environment, the economy is thriving, Kenyans are working, then perhaps parents would have a way of making some money to take their kids to school. But look at what we're having. So the government must play its role first. And even in that funding model, there is a bit that the family is giving. Yes, we are talking about the portion that the government is supposed to give. Give this portion and let the parent then do his or her bit. The government has refused. Now, when you refuse, what do you want? You expect students to come and just sit and look around at you?
Is an
They're not.
unavailability of resources, according to what we've been told by Treasury, right? If an unavailability of resources, does that equate to them not wanting to do this, or are we saying this unavailability is an excuse?
In fact, you've put it right. In our understanding, inavailability of funds that the government is talking about is artificial. Why do I say so? I say so because look at what the government is doing. When you look at the need to have educated population, and then you choose not to provide for that, but you decide to put up houses, affordable housing. We are then talking about, or rather, you also have issues to do with you want to put up a church in the State House. That is having our priorities upside down. What is it that we need first? Is it to have houses, to have a church, or to have our children going to school? There's a lot of money. Kenyans are actually contributing a lot of taxes. That if the government were to utilize that money properly, prudently, and ensuring that their priorities are well set to get these Kenyans, on the right path of development, then the government would not be talking about availability of resources. We have resources. Kenyans are contributing more than. Look at the previous governments. The previous governments were able to provide for these, children, education and other services with less taxation. Now we are having the highest taxations ever. Why would the government that is collecting the highest amount of taxes from Kenyans now come to tell us we have no funds and therefore we are not able to provide education?
When you have the discussion, there is you've talked about having an educated population, which should be a priority. Right. But then again, you look at the proposals that have been given by Treasury in terms of right sizing, and ensuring that they have a leaner academic staff. And one asks the question, with the population, because over the years, the population that joins universities has continued to increase, but the number of dons as well has not been commensurate with the numbers that are getting in. Now, when the Cabinet Secretary says that they have to downsize, how then do we ensure that we have an educated population if there are no dons to teach the students first?
First of all, I want to imagine that the Cabinet Secretary was in a dream. I say so because he is an immediate former employee of the university. He knows what goes on in the university. As a colleague, he ought to know that the numbers of students in these institutions are increasing. I've always said the clamor for our youth to learn, to go to university and get educated is ever increasing. Our schools are churning out more and more students coming to the universities. And therefore, there is need to have a commensurate number of staff, the dons, to teach these students in those universities. When the cabinet secretary says now the government is going to retrench and declare redundancy and so on and so forth, then he must tell us, where does he expect these students who are increasing in numbers are going to come and who is going to teach them? You remember just the other day we had a 100% transition?
Transition, yes.
Yes. That is already in our universities. In fact, as we speak right now, the workload that these members of staff are carrying on their shoulders is huge. And that's why you always hear students are being taught by, how do you call this? Lecturers who are moonlighting, he's not actually an employee, but he only visits and he comes and teaches and then he goes away. In the end, then you end up having things like missing results and so on and so forth. Why do you do that? Get these teachers, get these lecturers in place, contract them, ensure that they are actually bonded to work and teach these students, pay them well.
Okay, so we have a problem that the non-academic staff,
Yes.
academic staff,
Yes.
students, here we are complaining at the non-academic and academic staff, they're complaining about pay. That there is a CBA that was, for those who are unionized,
Yes.
that there was a CBA, obviously this deals with government directly because we're talking about public universities.
Yes.
That there was a CBA and that the tenets of the CBA then have not been met because there was an increment that they had agreed upon that has not come, right? Students also now, of course, we see with HELB, they're saying that the money that they need to then give even students to then get, because the new funding model takes on, but then it is activated through HELB. Right? It's this, the organization remains
Yes.
to activate this new funding model.
Yeah.
But they're saying that they don't have enough in terms of resources to then give everybody what they need, even after they've applied. Okay?
Yeah.
But this is interesting because the amount of money that has been given to education in 2024-2025, that financial year, was 82 billion shillings. This is to public universities. 82 billion. Now, one would assume that the highest charge on this money is recurrent expenditure, salaries and the like. Does it not take into consideration then all of these things which are being demanded for at this time? And if not, why?
Can you come again?
82 billion shillings is what has been budgeted to go to public universities. Are we essentially saying this money is not enough?
Well, that money may not be enough. You know why? First, even before that money is brought, these institutions are heavily laden with debts. Which debts, majority of whom actually belong to government agencies. We have these universities that have not even, majority of them have not paid the statutory deductions for years.
Whose responsibility would that be?
It's the government. It's the government. When the government is not ensuring that the money given to these institutions is enough for them to pay their debts. Remember, these institutions are state-run institutions. They do not have any other form of income. In fact, even if they came up with their own forms of income generation, there's always government interference. Yes. So they solely rely on the consolidated fund. Now, the consolidated fund, if it's not coming enough, they are not able to pay those debts. So you give them 82, but you have not taken care of what they owe. What do you expect?
So here, let's look at these statutory deductions, because if we take even one institution in Nairobi, this has been one of the big issues.
Yeah.
And the amount of money that is being owed in terms of statutory deductions is unbelievable.
Yes.
It's crazy money in the billions that is owed.
Yes.
So when money is deducted at cutoff from your payslip, for example, it is collected, one would assume, in one big basket,
Yes.
and the institution then is responsible to pass that on to the institution, in this case being KRA.
Yes.
Why doesn't that happen? Because now we are saying that now come 2024, 2025, you're in this huge debt over statutory deductions. Are we saying that they don't pay those statutory deductions to the necessary institutions, but it's cut at source from the salaries of
Yes.
non-academic staff, of academic staff? Why doesn't that money get to the institution and it results in debt?
That's a
over
very
the
good
years?
question that actually the universities need to know, need to be put. They're supposed to answer that question. The deductions are made.
Yes.
But as to whether that money then gets the intended agency is another thing. That money ends up not. In fact, sometimes you go for KRA clearance certificate. Then you are told you are not compliant, you have not paid your. But at source, I was deducted. The same thing with bank loans. The same thing, everything. You see that? So, as we say that the government is not giving these institutions money, the managers this government has also put in place to run these institutions have also to blame, because they represent the executive arm of the government in those institutions. Yes, you have been put there to do all this, manage these institutions, and so on and so forth. You are deducting and you're not able to send that money. Why can the government then take responsibility or take action against such officers? They are their own officers, you see. So that's why in the whole thing, we are blaming the government. The government has what it takes to ensure that these institutions are run properly. And anybody who does not run them properly on their behalf must take responsibility.
So, when you talk about statutory deductions, one would assume, say, let's take University A, and in that university, payroll is run by those managing the institution. So, at that point, after the deduction, that money is not remitted to the said agencies, government agencies. Where does this money go to? How does it end up that it is debt if it was removed at source? Have you tried to follow up to just find out where this money has gone to? Because government will say, we gave out the money,
Yes.
it was deducted, we never received it. But where did it get lost?
I would lie to you if I told you that I know where the money goes to. Yes, I would be lying. But it is there, and you will find, for example, one of our universities that was closing down the other day, that was actually declared staff redundancies until we had to go to court and overturn that particular action. One reason why we had to move to court quickly was that you are declaring these staff redundancies, but you owe these guys. You have never paid them their salaries, for example. All their third-party loans have not been paid. Whatever. So why are you sending them? You must first of all pay them what belongs to them. So where this money goes to, I don't know.
It remains a
But
mystery.
your guess is as good as mine. And that's why we say the government must take the leading role. If your own officer you have sent to go and run an institution on your behalf is not doing it properly, I think it's your responsibility to go there and tell this guy, I gave you this mandate, but I'm seeing like you're not doing what I told you. The terms of reference are this. I gave you this much to be able to carry out this. I'm seeing you've not done that. I should now take action against you. Why is the government not taking action against such?
Okay.
Instead, they land on hapless workers. They look at what Mbadi is saying, or retrench and declare. You are landing on innocent workers. It is the managers that are supposed to be put in the dock to answer why whatever that is happening is happening.
Okay, so when Whenasu goes on strike, when Whenasu threatens and says, okay, we're actually going to go on strike, who should be paying heed? Should Treasury say, oh, hang on a minute, the university is about to collapse because the academic staff will not be teaching? Because essentially what they said is that we will grind this thing to a halt. And this is countrywide, right? We'll grind this thing to a halt because we've not been paid. Who is supposed to take responsibility for that? Who's supposed to say, okay, hang on, guys, we didn't meet the tenets of the CBA? Is it individual universities and their people? Is it an umbrella body? Who is supposed to take...
Thank you. Who is supposed to take responsibility? First and foremost, the university councils. These are the organs that manage these institutions on behalf of the government.
Okay.
And therefore, whenever there's a problem affecting universities, it is this university council that is supposed to quickly move and sit down with the parent ministry, the Ministry of Education, and say, hey, this is what we're having. This is what is coming. How can you help us? If indeed it is the question of money, it is the parent ministry now to contact Treasury and get the necessary funds coming to the university. So the university councils and the government both are the ones who are supposed to.
So here's a question of the CBAs that have existed before, and it is a question of these CBAs have not been honored. They've not been paid all along. But here's a question where now there is the 2025-2029 CBA that Dons have said we must sign these, else we will pretty much stop learning. We will down our tools and no learning will happen. Now, if the previous CBAs have not been honored, here we have another CBA. What are we looking at?
First of all, it may not be true that the previous CBAs have not been honored. When we're talking about the previous CBA, what we are currently having, I think, is the 2021-2025. The government is in the process of implementing it. Yes. We did agree with the government and the university councils that this CBA will be implemented in tranches. And that process is ongoing. We did get the first tranche, I think, in December. And then they are supposed, according to what we agreed, the government is supposed then to send money by 1st of July. So come end of July, we do expect that second tranche should be coming. And then the third tranche, I think, should be coming next financial year. So on that score, that CBA is actually on course. The 2025-2029, the successor CBA now, is the one that we are talking about. Not that it is supposed to be signed. It is supposed to be negotiated first. We have not negotiated it. This 2025 ought to have started on 1st of July 2025, meaning we ought to have negotiated it, signed, and implemented it effective 1st July 2025.
What's causing the
delay? So
1
month down the line, we have not sat, we have not negotiated, nothing.
What's causing the delay?
I don't know. But us as workers' representatives, we did file our proposals as required by law with the university councils. And then the university councils, upon receiving our proposals, the law requires them now to sit and prepare their counter proposal, and they now invite parties, what we call the joint negotiating committee, on the table. These guys got our proposals. They have never called us onto the table. And that is where the clamor is. Why are you not calling us? We're already late to negotiate that CBA. What instead they're doing, they are busy trying to come up with what they are calling the generic human resource instruments. Hiding behind the guise that the public service has directed that we align our HR instruments with the public service HR guidelines. That's okay. If that is the case, that's okay. But you see, the moment they touch on the current terms of service, then the best, and this is what we're telling them, the best, and then call the JNC, the Joint Negotiating Committee, so that we sit as we negotiate that CBA. The issues that we are trying to come up with are what we proposed in our proposals. Get us on the table. We negotiate this jointly. The ministry, treasury, AG's office, university councils, we sit and we negotiate. They have not come onto the table. And that is also going to cause strife in our universities. The longer they stay to call us on the table and we are getting late, It is just piling problems on top of other problems. We are going to go for them.
With universities in Kenya at the moment, it's a question that we're trying to look into and then say, okay, what are solutions to these problems, and who's actually having these conversations around the solutions? Because as one of the comments that we've seen this morning is like, we always, every year, without it's like clockwork, that even a broken clock is right twice a day. At some point, it's right. And so it seems as though we will have a strike by universities every year. Somebody's going to down their tools over something. And it seems, Charles, as though we can't run away from that. There must always be a strike. There will always be something wrong. How can we get to the point whereby we actually start to streamline things and the folks don't? And what is it? Why is there always this push and pull? And I want to take this outside of the country a little bit, first of all, and then we can come back in. That where there's a public system, I think about times where universities would go on strike after strike after strike after strike. It's one of the reasons I didn't go to university in Nigeria, because people who would be in a 4-year course end up spending 7 years in university.
Right.
So you want to ask yourself, why do you want to waste your time and your resources to do that?
Yeah.
So go somewhere else and get it done, as is the case for very many. And then you also have the proliferation of private universities that will curb this problem. Whereas the answer should be that public school, from ECD through to university, that the publics should be the ones that hold the fort.
Yes.
Because it's government.
Yes.
It's yours. You own it. So why do we have these perennial issues?
Thank you. In fact, it's absurd that every year in our universities we always go on strike. And for us to get anything done, we must actually down our tools. It's absurd. It is dishonorable. It gives us a bad name as a country. But there we are. What do we do? When our rights are being infringed on, we just have to move in that direction, that we push and then we get. But why do we think this happens year in, year out? I've told you, the managers of these institutions and the government are to blame. When resources are not being availed, you would expect scarce resources will always cause strife. But why universities? I was just sharing with him, Dennis, that you see, in our universities, the government and the managers of these institutions do not bother to sit down with us in good time to agree on the successor CBS in good time and make a proviso for the same through the budgets. They will wait 2-3 years have gone by. That's when they are calling you onto the table. Let us now discuss and negotiate this.
Okay.
Obviously, by that time, the financial years have already passed. So the allocation is not available. So the government now promises you, now we'll factor in the next financial year. At that time, what are you eating? What are you having? You also have needs. So the government actually is to blame. Secondly, the government also has to blame in this case. Who are the owners of these private universities? Who?
Tell us.
The honchos in the government. Yes. Some of these guys own these private universities. So when these public institutions are run down, it is actually the advantage. Why would you imagine this? Why would you imagine students who have actually qualified to join public universities are admitted in private universities and money is sent? Their money is being taken there for these students to learn. Why? Why would that happen? And yet you have your own
In
public
the form
universities.
of capitation?
Yes. Why would you do that? In any case, now that you're coming up with a new funding model, which you are saying is student-centered, in other words, the money will follow the student. The more the students that you have in your university, the more money you're going to get. But you're the same person, the government, who is sending these students in private to join private universities. Aren't you killing your very own public universities? You are doing that. So this thing is the government. The government must pull up its socks. The issues that Cabinet Secretary Mbadi is talking about, those are hallucinations that we are not going to listen to. We will not listen to them. Yes, stakeholders must sit and we look at each other's eye and say where the problem is and we sort it out. We cannot continue like this. Education is a right to Kenyans, and the government's role is to provide for funding. Then the government also must ensure that these institutions are enabled to generate their own resources, to augment what the government is giving. When we used to have parallel degree programs, our institutions were not in this kind of situation because they were able to generate funds that would help clear the deficit that perhaps the government was creating, or whatever less money that was being received. Universities would be able to. But again, who killed those parallel degree programs? It's not the universities. No. Even if there were problems, small problems here and there due to this parallel degree, those were issues that would be easily fixed. Then you allow the programs to go. Of course, one of the complaints would have been, and we used to hear that with parallel degree programs, universities were ensuring that they take in less regular students to create more space for parallel degree. But that is it's a storm in a cup of tea. That is something that you can fix and ensure that does not happen. That's why we have COOPs, to ensure that the students who have qualified to join regular degree are placed in those universities. So for me and my colleagues, we did not take, and we don't take that as a reason as to why parallel degree programs were pulled down. You go on the overseas, we have these parallel degree programs going on in the universities. There are students who are coming in through the regular, and then there are those who are coming in self-sponsored. That is a worldwide practice in overseas universities. Why not here? So we curtail our universities from making their own money, and then we also ensure that we don't give them adequate funds. What exactly does the government want us to do?
So, Charles, are you having this discussion with the government with regard, first of all, to in terms of Onsource revenue? If you look at a university like Egerton University back in the days, a stellar university, good in research, agriculture, doing well, able to stand on its own feet based off what it was generating. Today, it is a sad story. But then again, you look at the parallel program, you said it is an international best practice that has been there. Now that universities find themselves in this quagmire, are you having this discussion with government in terms of bringing back parallel programs and also perhaps getting a boost for universities that were known for what they were doing, like the Egertons, the Mayu universities, to get back to where they were? Are these conversations happening?
I would tell you, Dennis, that these conversations are ongoing, but not in a manner that would give one hope. We keep on telling the government and stakeholders the need to revive some of these programs to help our institutions. But then you surprisingly find that some of the people who may be opposed to these programs, or who give very negative remarks about those programs, are our very own managers. When a manager tells you, these students were making education to become very expensive. It was coming to be for the rich only, because are the ones who can bring their students to. But you are the one who has made it. You are the one who is making sure that vacancies that are available are only a few for the. You want to make more money so that you corrupt yourself by bringing in more students on parallel degree. These are the things we are saying the government can fix. If this money is coming in and there are people with sticky hands who want to lay their hands on it, the government has the wherewithal to get people to ensure that the money that has been paid in through parallel degree programs and other income generating activities is prudently managed. It is the duty of the government.
I understand that there is a duty that the government bears when it comes to public institutions, to basically ensure that they run right. Isn't it time that we look at a shift in the model whereby, look at devolution own source revenue is a thing for counties that you have to actually start to think. What it does is that it mirrors the federal model of governance, whereby, again, we'll go to federal states on the continent, Nigeria being one of them, whereby there's the state government and then there's the federal government, whereby you get a little bit of funding as a state from the federal government, but then for the operations, you will have to generate income in order to run the show. Is it plausible to imagine such a situation for public academic institutions whereby self-funding to an extent actually comes into play? Not necessarily because there's a shortfall, but also looking towards positions of independence, because you can't be independent when you're still tied to the purse strings. Are there talks, are there activities around which do any public universities, beyond school fees, actually generate their own funds?
First and foremost, that would be interesting if we're to move in that direction, because these institutions are set-run. First, that identity cannot be lost. They belong to the public. They are run by the public fund, the consolidated fund. It is good, and it's very good practice, if such institutions were also given an opportunity to generate their own, but not to make them independent, so to speak, because then if they become independent, then what will be the difference between them and private universities?
Then in this case, truly owned by the public, whereby whether it's activities around which surplus can be made, and this is the selling, whether it is research, whether these institutions become research hubs for certain things, and to be known for that. University of Nairobi, Egerton was already well on its way to be an agricultural center for Kenya. Could have been big time, not just within the country, but also outside the country. The policies and the research, the analysis that was done at Egerton is crazy that we look at it now, that all of that could potentially swirl down the drain. And here we are with an opportunity whereby you could generate resources, you could then use those funds that come in surplus for other things, as opposed to, well, here we are on this gold mine essentially, but we let it go down the toilet because we're waiting for funds to come from National Treasury. I mean,
it's crazy. It's crazy. In fact, these institutions, given the opportunity, they can generate their own fund. They can, because they have tried to, like talking about Egerton was purely an agricultural niche. University of Nairobi, medicine and law and so on and so forth. You go to Kenyatta University, education. Each had actually a niche, and given that opportunity, they can do a lot and a lot. The problem is management. The problem is management of those resources. When these resources are generated, how are we using that money? You have just talked about Egerton. I happen to be an alumni of that institution. All that the university used to generate went down the drain simply because the managers were not up to the task.
They couldn't handle it.
It's corruption. It's corruption. And perhaps that's the reason as to why the government, in its own wisdom, decided now, okay, even those parallel degree programs are generating funds, but those funds are going down the drain, we stop it. But I'm saying that was a wrong decision. Those are issues those are small loopholes that can be sealed to ensure that these institutions generate money so that they augment whatever the government is giving them.
There you go.
Yes. With what we are able to generate. But the government must ensure that money is prudently used. Secondly, when you allow these institutions to come up with their own income-generating activities, don't interfere as a government. I keep talking about Kenyatta University, teaching and referral hospital here. When the university came up with that, a noble idea, very noble idea. In fact, world over, world leaders are either treated in military or university hospitals.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So when our own university comes up with such a facility, we get very proud. We are happy. And we have the personnel and the intellect to run them. But what happens? When now it is off the ground, it's now running, The government comes and takes it and says, now this is our own parastatal. So, are you really, as a government, allowing these institutions to come up with their income-generating activities? Do you want to encourage them to do that, or you want to discourage them, and at the same time you don't give them enough, funds? That's the question I'm asking. What does the government want us to do? Yes.
So here's a question of the management that you've talked about in terms of utilizing resources and using them prudently.
Yes.
It is a problem that continues to stare at Kenyans, especially in different sectors. But when you talk about universities and you being at the center and knowing where the problem is, one would assume these are things you've raised, say, with the EACC, with the police, the investigative agency, the government itself for these changes. And you have raised it with the government. But you've asked, what does the government want? But what is the government telling you with regard to ensuring that what you're calling for, which pretty much is justice and proper use of resources, is done? Yes. Are they silent? And if so, kwa nini?
Dennis, you'll be surprised. We have written and written and written. We have complained about some of this malpractice and malfeasance that we find in our institutions. It lands on deaf ears. It lands on deaf ears. Egerton University, for example, had colossal sums of money committed to putting up an electric fence around the entire university. And the university is big. Yeah. Egerton has a lot of land. That fence, as we speak, cannot even catch a fly. Electric fence. Electric fence. And before then, they put up a grandiose gate.
52 million?
Yes. Yeah. All such like projects we have had to complain about. Told the government and the relevant agencies that, no, there's something here that is not right. Can you get there and find out exactly what it is? I can tell you the amount of silence that has... we cannot imagine. So it means that somebody somewhere in the government is sleeping on his or her job, or is just disinterested, or he says, Malia Uma, let it be, or whatever it is. Yeah? But then, what we end up with is a student who is suffering. Because when lecturers refuse to go to class and teach, it is that poor boy or girl who actually is going to suffer. With that poor parent who has struggled to sell firewood and some chicken, to get this boy or girl to school, who is going to suffer. You see that? So, we squarely blame the government. Why does the government not want to fight corruption in our institutions? Why does the government not want to hold the managers responsible for mismanaging these resources that we are given? And why does the government itself not give money that is required to these institutions? So it is the government. You own these institutions, you own these managers, you have the agencies that are supposed to help you carry out all these issues, and you're not doing it. Charles, so the question is, what do you want us to do as
Charles,
a government?
If you were to rate the status of universities in the country out of 10, how would you rate it?
4
Why?
out of 10.
Wow.
4. But these are institutions that have the potential to attract the very best from within and outside this country. They have the potential. We have the cream de la cream, men and women who are well-read there, who have carried out research, who are ready to teach these boys and girls. But the government is not helping them, facilitating them to do that by allowing some lazy, busy bodies to manage this institution just down the drain. Yeah.
So, will the impending strikes that we're hearing from different quarters solve this problem? Or will it take the attention of government for just a short period of time and then we go back into this tailspin that we are used to year after year?
Very interesting. Now we are used to those industrial strife, courtesy of our constitution. And they serve.
Okay.
But as you said, they will attract the attention of the government for some time. But then after lull, we go into another period of some. We will do it. We can go on strike whichever time we case. Like the government says, after all, they'll go on strike and then they get back and then life continues like that. But we'll go. Should we be pushed to the wall, then we will be forced to call our members to down their tools. Yes.
Whenasu already done it. I think they've given a couple of days and said, they will be downing tools, depending on what's done or not done. But they seem very hell-bent on doing this. What would happen, essentially, if Whenasu, as a union, were to put down? What would we see?
There will be paralysis in our institutions of higher learning, definitely. And as you know, September is when the new academic year begins.
Yes.
Yeah, so students and their parents are preparing to get these boys and girls back on the campuses.
Yeah.
And so should we, like our colleagues have threatened to go on strike, which also I'm seeing because I'm just going for a meeting at 9 o'clock with our organs, some of these things are going to be discussed. Okay. So it means then that should we, all decide that we down our tools, come September, then there will be paralysis in our institutions of higher learning, which in my view is not the right thing. We shouldn't have these boys suffer. The government must just come. So by the time we are going on strike like that, it's not that we are targeting our students.
Yeah.
But we are just trying to attract the attention of the government. Come.
Do something.
Get these boys and girls back to class. Yes.
Charles Mukhwaya is the Secretary General of the Kenya University Staff Union. He's been our guest this hour. The state of universities in Kenya. Let's see what happens after that meeting and then before December. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Most welcome.
Asante sana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.